We come into this time of letting go, of trusting. In these moments of shared quiet, of collective letting go. So I invite you to listen first to the voice of your own breath in and out. Sense your inhale and exhale just as it is. Breath in, breath out. Sensing your body here just as it is. Feeling supported, letting go of tension if you can. Letting your hands rest open to receive, or resting on your lap or on your heart, grounding into your experience. Letting your gaze soften or your eyes close. And in the release of your exhale, softening into this moment just as it is. This perfect moment just as it is. And now let arise again in your heart and mind one of those situations that calls out, that cries out for transformation. And as much as you are able, fully accept what is, and hold that gently in your left hand. Bring your awareness completely into your left hand. As you breathe in and out, holding what cries out to your heart. And bless the chaos. Bless the sorrow. Bless the brokenness. Bless all that is unfinished. And hold it gently, seeing with clear eyes and clear heart. And now bring your awareness to your right hand. As you gently continue breathing, bring your awareness fully and let your right hand hold the paradox that you are an unrepeatable expression of God, of the source of all love. And there is no separation from you, from the ache of what your heart holds, and there is no separation for what can be in the blessing. And so we breathe too into the blessing of all we cannot see. We bless the mystery. We bless possibility. And now bring your hands together in prayer position at your heart. And breathe in truth and paradox, mystery, grace. And lay down at the altar of love all that is and all that may be. And may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in faith, in believing, so that you may abound in hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. And now, taking a deeper breath in and out, abiding in hope. Come back fully and gently into the room. In this season of Advent, nature herself teaches us about darkness and light. The shorter days and longer nights in our part of the world are not just something to get through, although I do go there often. Last week when Zelda was here, she spoke about cultivating, her hand movement, cultivating, especially after I had shared with Roger that cultivating these gifts of spirit over the weeks of Advent, that word cultivating hit me before Zelda shared that. So that image of how do we cultivate? What are we cultivating? What am I cultivating? That image has stayed with me. That physical recapitulation of that gift of cultivating. In the soil of our awareness, through curiosity, through seeing our ego as innocent and an ally, Zelda invited us into the wisdom of the three sisters, the collector spirit of corn, the greeter spirit of squash, and the receiver spirit of beans. That wisdom is birthed in the wisdom of nature's rhythms. There is no blooming of spring, no growth of summer, or harvest of autumn without the deep underground rest of seeds and roots in the dark of winter. Hope, faith, and trust are interwoven in those roots. Optimism is an ability to visualize a positive outcome, right? Like that's very New Thought unity. We visualize those positive outcomes. And that can be a building block of hope. But hope, unlike optimism, doesn't rely on an outcome we can visualize. As Old Testament scholar Walter Brueggemann writes, Hope is a trust in what God has done and will do, in spite of evidence to the contrary. Hope in gospel faith is not just a vague feeling that things will work out, for it is evident that things will not just work out. Rather, hope is the conviction against a great deal of data that God is tenacious and persistent in overcoming the deathliness of the world, that God intends joy and peace. Whew. I read that this week as I thought about what am I going to say to us about hope and faith when there is so much evidence that things will not work out, that things are not working out. This Wednesday at the breakfast program at Focus, we served 20 dozen eggs, cracked, thank you, 2 million. It was 2 million. It felt like 2 million. 2 million omelets made and served because the need is so great. The food pantries at St. Vincent de Paul and at the Focus programs are overwhelmed with record numbers of people who need assistance to eat, to feed their families. Our collective cultural addiction to noise, to numbing, to an inability to hold paradox and nuance is the deathliness of the world. There are untold numbers of lives destroyed by the rampant power over violence, greed, tyranny, war. The data feels overwhelming. Hope is the conviction against a great deal of data that God is tenacious and persistent in overcoming the deathliness of the world, that God intends joy and peace. So how do we cultivate hope and faith that God intends, that the universe intends, that all is working towards joy and peace? In conversation with those lines from Walter Brueggemann is a passage that I have shared here before. It's one I turn to again and again about hope. I've got a passage of it in hot pink ink on a piece of paper on my mirror because I forget. It's a passage from Becoming Wise by Krista Tippett in the chapter Hope Reimagined. Hope is distinct from optimism or idealism. It has nothing to do with wishing, even with visualizing. It references reality at every turn and reveres truth. It lives open-eyed and wholehearted with the darkness that is woven inescapably into the light of life and sometimes seems to overcome it. Here's the passage I have on my mirror. Hope, like every virtue, is a choice that becomes a practice, that becomes spiritual muscle memory. Hope is a choice that becomes a practice, that becomes spiritual muscle memory. It's a renewable resource for moving through life as it is, not as we wish it to be. Hope then pulls us into the present moment as it is. When my mind is spinning, usually at 3 a.m., but sometimes other times as well, when my mind is spinning with the things that break my heart or make me worried, that I feel helpless and hopeless to change, or even when I anticipate I'm going to see those grandbabies, I'm going to go on a walk with a friend, but I am in some future or some past. Hope brings me back into the present moment. Hope reminds me to come to the here and now and asks me again and again and again and again to trust. To trust in the unfolding, to trust in the absolute ever-present presence of God. God who can use every moment of every human alive on this planet to bring about good. To trust despite the evidence to the contrary. Hope lives open-eyed and wholehearted. And when we stay clear-eyed and open-hearted, when we can look unflinching at the shadows in our own lives, in the ways we forget and let our ego not be innocent and an ally, but we let our egos be the driving force. And when we look clear-eyed at the collective numbing of our culture, the paradox is that hope then lets us have faith enough to say, I can do something. I can show up. There is nothing in our experience where God is not present. And if I rely only on my own ego strength, I spiral quickly into despair, into what can I do, instead of trusting, as I do when I look back on my life and see those moments where the darkness was growing seeds of something I could not yet imagine. I couldn't hold a positive outlook in optimism because I had no breadth, width of imagination of God. I hadn't allowed myself to tap into that, to trust. And in those moments when we stay open and curious, where we have faith in unseen, unknown, unfolding outcomes, we then can live into the paradox that our clear-eyed hope that is a muscle, that is a choice and a practice, gives us the courage to act, but not on our own. Hope then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Hope gives us faith to live in partnership with where God is calling us, to be love in action, to speak our truth with clarity and compassion, to feed the hungry, comfort the afflicted, to clothe the naked, to bring healing in the ways that Jesus did in the now. Not in some imagined heaven and future glory, but now. Jesus, our way shower, didn't say, well, I'd like to heal you, but I haven't come into my full glory yet, so you're going to have to wait. In that unseen, unknown outcome is the strength and courage to say, yes, I have hope. despite the evidence to the contrary, I am listening, God. I am slowing my train down long enough to listen. And after I do that inner work that is always, always, always what I must do on my own in my daily practices, I then do that communally with you because I also need the reminders every single time. It is one of those paradoxes as well, that we do our own inner work and yet we come together, and that individual work is so much more than the individual. We grow the beloved community together through fun, through dancing, through book discussions, through showing up in so many ways. And then we co-create with God the hope and the peace, the trust, the compassion, the joy that we long to see, that we know is there despite the evidence. And so this seasonal rhythm of dark days, they're going to circle back. It's still going to be cold and dreary in a lot of December and January and February and March. Well, even April, really. They circle back, right? Those days circle. That is the dance of the universe, that rhythm. It's a rhythm of being that is as old as creation. And we are a part of that rhythm. So this little flame that Jerry lit as Mary was reading that prayer, it's a reminder that bold hope, vigorous hope, is a gift of spirit. And this gift is ours, available in every moment, no matter how dark those moments seem. That is the soil that cultivates our deep faith in the ever-present goodness of God at work in us and through us and as us. And with that hope, we cultivate compassion. We cultivate hope that allows us to work for justice and mercy. It is hope that allows us to cultivate the light within each of us, that we then shine in the world as only we can. And so this Advent, I invite you to cultivate the practices that for you bring you there. And when you go into the spiral of despair, because it happens, then look around at this room. Those of you who are not here physically today, we are here together. These are our companions on the way. And we are walking each other on that road to Bethlehem every day. Not just when you come for the fourth Sunday of Advent at 10 a.m. on Sunday, the 24th, and again at 5:30 for the Christmas Eve celebration. Every day. Every day. And so I'd like to close with a beautiful, powerful prayer written by Reverend Steve Garnis Holmes. And he begins this prayer poem with Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Hope is not optimism, not wishing, not a bet on the future, but trust in what is already present, unseen. I hope in the sunrise because the earth is already turning. My faith is not that God will intervene and make things better or fix problems. My faith is that love is at work. I trust in hidden love even as injustice runs loose. I believe in our oneness even as war and racism wound us. I know our belovedness even as we assault each other, even though we damage the earth, though the violent rage and the rich oppress the poor, still this world is born of goodness. And grace flourishes even in bad places. And love holds us in aching but untiring arms. Even when the way is not well lit, I live in hope. So step with me into hope that is a choice, hope that is a practice, and hope that then becomes our spiritual muscle memory, despite the evidence to the contrary. May we abound in hope, and may we turn our hearts to the God of hope always and in always. And so it is. Amen.